Okay, so get this. We're going deep on a total mystery today. It's a signal from space. And you know it's a big deal because it's called the WOW signal.
No kidding. I mean, you don't get a name like that unless it's something really strange.
Right. It's 1977, and this astronomer is looking at data, and he sees something so crazy, he writes, wow, right there on the printout.
And to this day, we still don't know for sure what it was.
So we're talking about digging through scientific papers, the actual recordings from this giant telescope, all to try and understand this signal.
Exactly. You'll get to see how scientists actually work through this kind of problem. What evidence do they have? What are the different theories? Even how they deal with the stuff they just can't explain yet.
It sounds like my kind of deep dive. But before we get lost in space, let's back up to 1977 for a second. The Cold War, the space race, all that. What was the big deal with radio astronomy back then?
It was huge, man. Like suddenly we could see the universe in a whole new way. Not just with light, but with radio waves.
So we were basically tuning into a whole new channel of information from space.
Exactly. And one of the tools we built to do that was the Big Ear Radio Telescope. Its whole job was to scan the sky for anything out of the ordinary.
And find something out of the ordinary it did. August 15th, 1977, our astronomer friend, Jerry Ehman, he's looking at the data. And then, bam! What exactly did he see that made his jaw drop?
This code, it was 6EQUJ5. It represented how strong the signal was. But this one, this was off the charts.
Yeah.
Way stronger than anything they'd ever seen.
Coming from where?
The Sagittarius constellation,
Yeah.
right near the center of our galaxy.
Wow. So not just any random spot in the sky?
Nope. This was prime real estate. And the signal itself, it lasted for 72 seconds.
So he sees this code, this super strong signal, and that's when he grabs his pen and writes, wow.
That's how the legend was born. But space is full of radio waves, right? Why was this one so special?
Yeah, good point. It's not like every little blip on the radar gets a nickname.
This one had some seriously weird features. First, it was incredibly narrow, like it only showed up on one of the Big Ear's 50 channels.
That's strange. So it wasn't just random static. It was like something was deliberately sending a focused beam.
That's what it looked like. But here's where it gets even weirder. The signal was right near the frequency of hydrogen.
Hydrogen? Like the stuff stars are made of? Why would that matter?
Yeah. Well, some scientists who were looking for aliens, they thought that hydrogen might be a good universal hailing frequency.
Like a cosmic way of saying, hey, is anybody out there?
Right. So we've got this super strong focus signal on a frequency some people thought aliens might use. And then what?
It just disappeared.
Gone. After 72 seconds. Never to be heard from again.
Okay. I'm hooked. Where do we go from here?
Well, the first thing you do with something like this is try to rule out any earthly explanations.
Okay, so like making sure it wasn't just some guy with a ham radio messing around.
Something like that.
Oh.
They had to make sure it wasn't a problem with the telescope itself. Or a satellite.
Yeah, satellites were around in 77, right?
Oh, yeah. But remember, this signal was right on that hydrogen frequency, which was a protected band, just for radio astronomy.
Oh, I see. So less chance of interference from something on Earth.
Exactly. And back then, there weren't nearly as many satellites up there as we have now. They checked all the records, and nothing matched up.
Okay, so no obvious earthly sources. So then it must come from somewhere out in space, right?
That's what they figured. But space is a big place.
Yeah, understating things a bit there, aren't we?
Well, it's not like it was a signal that kept repeating. They never heard it again.
So just a one-time blip makes it even harder to figure out where it came from.
It's like trying to solve a crime with just one tiny piece of evidence. But we do have that one piece of evidence, and it tells us a few things.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it was that narrow bandwidth. It wasn't just some random noise. It had to be something that was focused.
Deliberately, you mean?
Maybe. Then there's the fact that it was right on that hydrogen frequency.
The universal hailing frequency, as you called it. So are we saying it could have been aliens trying to get in touch?
Hold on now. We're not there yet. It's important to consider all the possibilities. And believe me, there have been some interesting theories about where the WPLW signal came from. Some of them a little out there even.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What else have scientists come up with?
One early idea was that it came from a pulsar. These are these neutron stars that spin really fast and send out beams of radiation.
I've heard of those. But don't pulsars have a really regular rhythm? The WLW signal was just this single burst.
That's right. And that's one reason why scientists eventually ruled pulsars out. Didn't quite fit the pattern. But they had other ideas too.
Like what?
Well, there are these things called quasars.
Mm-hmm.
Really bright, really far away, and they emit a lot of radiation too. But the problem with quasars is that their brightness changes very slowly.
Not sudden bursts like the WOW signal.
Exactly. Then there was the idea that maybe it was a supernova.
Like a giant star exploding, those can be pretty intense.
They sure are. But supernovae leave behind these giant clouds of gas called nebulae. And when astronomers looked in the direction of the WOW signal, there was no nebula.
So another dead end. I'm starting to see why this is such a mystery.
Don't worry, we're not done yet. We've still got some more theories to explore, some of them even weirder than the ones we've already talked about.
Well, bring it on. The weirder, the better.
Okay, how about this? A few years ago, some folks thought comets might be the culprit.
Comets, you mean like balls of ice and dust? I don't get it. How could a comet make a radio signal?
Well, think about it. As comets get close to the sun, they start to melt, and they release a lot of gas, including hydrogen.
Oh, right, the hydrogen line frequency. Are we saying comets were sending us messages?
No, it wasn't quite like that. Their idea was that maybe a comet's hydrogen cloud could act as a lens and kind of amplify a signal from somewhere else in space.
So the comet wasn't the source, but it made the signal stronger. I kind of like that. It's creative.
Yeah, a lot of people thought so. But it wasn't a perfect theory. For one, nobody had ever seen a comet make a signal anywhere near as strong as the WOW signal.
So it would have to be a total fluke.
Exactly. And there was also the question of whether the physics actually worked out. Could a comet's hydrogen cloud really boost a signal that much? Nobody's really sure.
Interesting idea, but maybe not the answer. What else is there?
Well, there are these things called fast radio bursts. They're these really strong bursts of radio waves that we see coming from other galaxies.
I've heard of those, but aren't they super short? Like milliseconds? The WOW signal lasted for over a minute?
That's true. Most of them are. But there are some rare ones called repeating FRBs that can last a few seconds.
Okay, so maybe a longer one, just by chance, could have caused the WOW signal?
It's not impossible, but the problem is all the repeating FRBs we've seen so far have these very specific patterns. And the WOW signal, well, it's just this one random burst.
So it still doesn't quite add up. It's kind of amazing all this time, and we still don't know what made that signal.
Yeah, it's definitely a humbling reminder that we don't have all the answers, not even close.
Yeah,
But that's part of what makes science so cool, right? There's always more to discover.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what now? Where do we go from here?
Well, we keep looking, keep listening. Who knows, maybe someday we'll hear another signal like it, or find some new clue that finally unlocks the secret.
Until then, I guess the WOW signal will just have to stay a mystery. But what a mystery it is. It really makes you think about what else might be out there.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. It just shows you, even with all our technology and knowledge, there's still so much about the universe that we don't understand.
And that's what makes it so exciting to explore. Big thanks to our expert for taking us on this deep dive into the WOW signal. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the unknown.